welcome back to the Open Book Podcast. I'm your host, Ren, and this podcast we talk about all things bookish. If you caught the last episode or you watched the video version on my YouTube channel, you will see that originally this podcast was going to have a different name, but there was another podcast with the name which didn't show up weirdly when I tried to do the RSS. So the podcast is now called the Open Book Podcast. Thank you for the support for it. It's in the, if you are watching this version, then the link to it is in the description, and you can come check us out on Spotify. Every little like and follow helps, so I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate all the love that I got on the first episode. So this wasn't going to originally be the second episode, but I feel like it is a really important thing to talk about because it's pretty big in the book industry at the moment, and that is the absolute mess that is the Hugo Awards. Like, it is pretty bad, and they are being very evasive and very passive aggressive online and really not addressing the situation here. So I think it is important to talk about it. So if you don't know what the Hugo Awards are, they were named after Hugo Gernsback, who was a magazine editor, and he was someone who was able to bring science fiction to a much wider audience, which I love. I love that history, and I have always enjoyed seeing the winners of the Hugo Awards. First was presented in 1953, and then it was presented annually from 1955. So it has been around for a big chunk of time, and it is the most prestigious science fiction award. Like, it is an award which is kind of held in very high regard, and lots of people do support it, and lots of people do really enjoy the time that, you know, we're finding out the winners. In the science fiction literary world, it's like the book Oscars, and they're actually voted on by members of the World Science Fiction Convention, which is WorldCon as well. That's another name, and they're the ones that administer it, and it's in a different place every year. In 2003 it was in China, then in 2004 it's going to be in Glasgow in Scotland. All sounds, you know, pretty good. It's an award ceremony. It's very exciting. It's very exciting to see all the nominees and to see the winners and to see who was voted. And it works like a balloting system as well. So there are different ballots, and they do see like who's eligible, and then there's different votes and different ballots, and then that goes on to see who can win and who becomes kind of the finalists. So that's how the whole voting thing is done, and the ballots are very like public, you can see them, but this year there were a lot of inconsistencies on those ballots, and there were also a lot of people deemed not eligible despite being very much eligible. So the two main ones were R.F. Kuang and Zero Joy Zhao. R.F. Kuang, her book Babel, which won Nebula and Locus Awards. In the first round of voting, Babel got one of the highest scores, but then the voting for Babel was stopped in that first round of voting, which makes no sense. I don't understand why one of the books that got one of the highest scores, you would stop voting. That doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that? So it was completely stopped, and there was no way to vote for it any further than that first round, despite it being one of the most. And then Zero Joy Zhao was deemed not eligible for the Astounding Award, but last year was a finalist for said award. Doesn't make sense for then this year for that to have changed, because it doesn't seem like any of their rules have changed, and they're not being very forthcoming if their rules have changed. Like, they are not talking about it. We also have Paul Weimer. He was deemed not eligible for Best Fan Writer, again, despite being a finalist for the last 3 years for the same category, and he got the third most nominating votes and the second highest point count, and was yet deemed not eligible for the award, which makes no sense. There was also an episode of The Sandman, which was Best Dramatic Short, and again, the episode had more than enough votes and still was deemed ineligible. And Neil Gaiman has questioned this and has been asking the people involved with the Hugo Awards what is going on and why that is the case. There's lots of speculation as to why certain books didn't make it. It kind of reeks of racism. which is what the whole internet is saying. There is a man called Dave McCarthy, and he works for the Hugo Awards, and he is being so evasive and so passive aggressive online that it's actually a bit gross. Like, the stuff that he is saying to people is just awful. He's not even trying to be any type of plight or any type of like giving any kind of reasoning or understanding. It is the same like bullshit generic messages that he is giving. He's even like, there was one message I think where he asked someone if they were slow. You shouldn't be saying that anyway, but in a professional capacity, why do you think that that is something that you can be saying to people? He literally said, I asked and answered, are you slow? And then he says, question has been answered multiple times. After reviewing the constitution and the rules we must follow, the admiration team determined these works and persons were not eligible. And then someone said, so you're not answering the actual question, why was Babel not eligible? It is there, plain as day, multiple times. It's not. It's the most, like, you're just saying it's not eligible. You're not saying why, you're just saying it's not eligible. It's not my job to answer further than that or help you with reading comprehension. Like, please shut up, Dave. And then saying, people are saying, well, you're not answering, you're not saying why is it not eligible. And then he's saying, clearly you don't understand plain English in our constitution, which, like, why are you so angry? Why are you being so angry about it? Why are you answering, like, why are you being so passive aggressive about this whole situation? Like, you look at varying factors, you look at different situations, and then you make a decision. So tell us what factors and what situations surrounding these books and these authors, why did those things cause you to make a decision that they were not eligible? Like, give a reason. Stop being so passive aggressive and mean to people online. Like, you are interacting with people in a professional capacity. You are interacting with people on behalf of the Hugo Awards, and you are asking people if they're slow. You're telling them they need help with reading comprehension. Like, why are you being the most unprofessional? It is so defensive, and it really makes it seem like there is a deeper reason why these books and these authors were not eligible. There is no need to be so defensive about it. You have, like, if you're going to make a decision, stand by that decision and say it with your whole chest and tell us why. Don't be a little, like, bully about it and not actually give a proper answer. I don't understand why he is being so mean to people. Like, does he not have better things to do with his day than to sit on Twitter and tell people that they need help with their reading comprehension? Are you okay? Seriously, are you okay? Like, and there's so many comments as well, like, on this Instagram post, there's so many comments saying, like, if it's against their constitution, they should be able to explain why. Say, like, what a shit show. It's very shady. RF Kong and Zirin J. Zhao released two different statements. So RF Kong said, I initially planned to say nothing about Babel's inexplicable qualification from the Hugo Awards, but I believe that these cases thrive on ambiguities, the lingering question marks, the answers that aren't answers. I wish to clarify that no reason for Babel's ineligibility was given to me or my team. I did not decline a nomination, as no nomination was offered. Until one is provided that explains why the book was eligible for the Nebula and Locus Awards, which it won, and not the Hugos, I assume this was a matter of undesirability rather than ineligibility. Excluding undesirable work is not only embarrassing for all involved parties, but renders the entire process and organisation illegitimate. Pity. That's all from me. I have books to write. And Jiren said, found out RF Kong and I have been disqualified from the Hugo Awards in China for reasons they refused to tell us, both having had enough votes to be finalists in our categories. And I did see an Instagram post by Mary Wright Shit, that is the I will link it down below, who said that apparently Jiren, Rebecca and Paul have been critical of the government in China, although I've never seen myself content made by them explicitly stating that, so take it with a grain of salt. Dave McCarthy has denied that he was compelled to manipulate any data by any government, and there was no communication between the Hugo administration team and the Chinese government in any official manner. But regardless, something weird has gone down. Jiren made a TikTok about it, which was taken down for violating community guidelines, which again feels very, very fishy, that of all the videos that she would make, that is the one that would be taken down, which I think, again, it's very interesting, especially as TikTok is a Chinese app. And I think a lot of people are pretty convinced that it's due to the content being undesirable in China. Books are books. Like, surely the content, like, you're supposed to be representing so many different things. The awards were in China in 2023, but it's books on a whole, like it's authors and books from everywhere coming together to be voted for these awards. So I don't really understand why that deems like a disqualification. I really don't. Like, books have different messages and different themes and different plots and different stories, and surely awards like this come together to celebrate that diversity and to celebrate books that do qualify and do have all these votes, and it feels wrong to disqualify them due to undesirability, which makes no sense, especially when they are eligible due to voting and balloting and also eligible for other awards. It doesn't make any. Another thing as well for this one is that the ballot numbers have definitely been fudged. So there is literally more, like, different columns are supposed to add up to a specific total, and if you look at the actual breakdown, they don't add up correctly. So the numbers on them have definitely been fudged, and then they've denied doing that despite the inconsistencies being very obvious and being something that everybody can access. It's very clear that these numbers have been messed around with, and they've tried to change this, which again suggests that they're trying to hide something. This isn't just it's ineligible and here's loads of reasons why. This is a directly evasive, targeted, and very specific removal from these awards, and it is not fair that they're allowed to be so evasive about it, because this whole communication the whole time, like any people talking from the Hugo Awards, just they haven't given a clear answer. They haven't told people why they've been excluded. They've been incredibly rude, and it just feels very, very, very targeted. These authors have gotten very, very high on the voting. They've definitely qualify. They are definitely eligible for these awards, and that has been taken away from them, and the Hugos refuse to give a proper answer as to why that is the case. And I feel like this absolutely is something that needs to be addressed further. It needs to be talked about. We need to tell the Hugo Awards that this is not okay and they can't just do this. It just reeks of discrimination. They absolutely need to properly address this. There needs to be legitimate reasons. They have fudged the numbers. They have been very, very, very not clear as to why this is the case. They've denied it when it's very obvious. Like, they are lying in plain sight, to be quite honest, and everyone is rightfully very, very angry about this, and it is definitely something which needs to be addressed, because it isn't fair, and it also isn't fair that they are then being like very rude about it. It just makes absolutely no sense to me. So yeah, absolute shit show of the Hugo Awards this year. It was a complete mess. I honestly don't feel like the Hugo Awards are going to be anything that I want to engage with going forward. I just feel really sorry for the people affected, because their works and these awards have been taken away from them, which is not right. And it also completely questions the legitimacy of these award ceremonies as well. Like, have the Hugos ever done anything like this before? How can you trust something if they're able to act like this, if they're able to fudge results? I don't understand. Or they ignore results as well. Like, how can you even begin to trust them as an organisation and as a legitimate award ceremony if they are now known for being very corrupt when it comes to their decision making. Like, I'm never gonna go forward and be like, oh yeah, the Hugo Awards, I trust every single thing that comes out of their mouth, because I don't trust anything now going forward. And it's very clear that they have no issue with changing the results to get what they want and to do what they want, which is ridiculous. So yeah, I just feel like it's not something that I can support going forward, and I hope that everyone affected does get their answers and does get some kind of clear answer as to what's going on. So yeah, what a mess the Hugo Awards were this year. Not a fun time. I would love to know your thoughts on the absolute mess that was the Hugo Awards this year. Like I said, all of these authors are brilliant. They all deserve to win. I Am Widow deserved to win. Like, I don't understand why they were disqualified. So if you haven't read those books, go and check out these authors, because they are genuinely phenomenal authors and phenomenal books, and they deserve support rather than whatever the fuck this is, you know? Go check them out and let's discuss in the comments. Thank you for listening to episode 2 of the Open Book podcast. All the links to everything will be in various descriptions, and you can come and chat with me on my other social medias as well. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you're doing really, really well, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.